Hello everyone, so I just explain what I'm on about here because it might take a bit of explaining for people. So basically, if you're a local politician, your local councillor, your local TD in our case, or MEP, whatever you want to call them, is on social media, but this is relating to X particularly, but other social media platforms too. Now in Ireland there is a lot of politicians, older politicians who probably never use social media, who are the old school of politics, pretty much theirs is for children pretty much, let's put it that way. Who wouldn't have a clue how to use a phone, that's a modern day phone, etc. They don't have Facebook, or they don't have Twitter, or they don't have Instagram, or whatever. So the only way to contact them is by phone. Now, I think particularly in the modern age, you would have, as a politician, as a public figure, or as a councillor or TD or whatever you want, the senator even, you should have a social media account for people, only people to reach out. And it's important too for the only people to know what a politician's doing, what they're talking about, what they're voting on, etc. Explain themselves basically what they're doing. Because nowadays, as we know, when you ring your local TD, your local councillor, I often do it, I don't get an answer. You get a voicemail, that's how you get messages. Because they're too afraid to answer the phone to people. They're terrified to answer because people usually give them a whole town, and often rightly so. Because you can't contact them. Years ago, to a contactable, you could find them, you could get them. Nowadays, you can't get them. I can't find a politician. If I went off Cavan for the next 7 years, I wouldn't find one walking around. You find them at a fence and the cameras are there. But you won't find them on the street, basically. You won't find them to have a chat with them on the street. And if you do, they run a mile if they see you coming to ask them a question. But yeah, so it's the same when you do with everybody nowadays. You ring up your local TD, you told, oh, yeah, ring back later on, you get through to the secretary, never talking to the person themselves. But long story short, my local TD here and a junior minister for AI, Neve Smith, left X, and this is a whole different story too, but left Twitter X, whatever you want to call it, due to the AI grog. And I talked about this before, and obviously it's very wrong what was happening. To do with women, take for example, they were putting up images, take for example, of just go out and about, basically, or having a meal or whatever, or enjoying life, and people would say put a bra on them or take off their clothes, etc. Very sexualized stuff, really, really sexualized, especially because these women were just putting up only photos of themselves enjoying life, and only people could put up saying take off their clothes. It's really just a lot of women too are very disturbed by it, and rightly so, because it is disturbing. And not to mention a few cases of literally posting children, like images of children and stuff, and it's dreadful stuff really, and that's not really freedom of speech or anything. It's just, in my opinion, not right, to be totally honest. That's to be totally honest. There's probably no law against, obviously child is stuff when it comes to children, but particularly that, but I don't think it's right. I don't think it's the best course of action. But long story short, Neve Smith deactivated the X account, my local TD. Now she has Facebook, of course, and other accounts, and TikTok, around TikTok, but but say for example, as a junior minister, particularly too, as a minister in the government, more than an only TD or only senator, you probably should have a social media account, like even though you don't agree with Twitter, and stuff, but just so people can see what you're doing. Take for example, I'm in Cavan here. She's my local TD. I want to see what Neve Smith's doing and what she's doing as a TD, as a junior minister. I want to see what she's doing for the people of Cavan, because I have Facebook, of course, but I want to see too, and I think the people of Twitter want to see what they're paying their TDs and councillors to do. But again, it's up to Neve. It's her own choice to leave, of course. But I do suggest, as a TD, particularly as a junior minister, you should have all social media platforms, really, in a way. Not all of them, but a good few of them. The main ones would be Twitter and Facebook, pretty much. And Instagram nowadays, more than anything else. Not so much TikTok, because TikTok's more for videos. This is for information, even photos and stuff. TikTok's more for videos and stuff. Even YouTube, for example. But I do think I respect Neve Smith's decision to leave if she wants to leave. It's her own personal choice, but I do think it's a junior minister. And just saying, if I was a TD or councillor, I wouldn't leave because I would want the people to be able to contact me, because it's easy to contact you on social media compared to ringing you on the phone or emailing. Because again, emails and stuff can be ignored. And phone calls can be ignored. Many times I rang my local TDs and councillors, not saying Neve Smith, but other TDs and councillors, and you wouldn't get through to them for love of money, just because they'd be terrified of you giving out to them. But I do think it's important, particularly as a junior minister, to have social media accounts. But anyway, I suppose that's the discussion to have. So what do you take? Because again, it's the people of Ireland that has the choice in this. What do you take? Do you agree with TDs, for example, leaving next? Those Social Democrats TD too. I can't think of his name now, but he's a beard and stuff. I can't think of his name at the top of my head. But long story short, he's leaving next too. And I do think, because I think they're forgetting the meaning of social media, particularly when it comes to politics, that it is for people to see what you're doing, because they're not there to basically fuck around and doll out and do nothing. Let's put it that way. You're there for a reason. You're there to represent the people. You're there to fight for the people, whatever they want, in your locality, wherever. And particularly for Twitter and stuff, it's important to see what you're voting on. Take, for example, if it's the hate speech bill, we want to see who's voting for it, why they're voting for it, explain themselves, what they're doing to the Irish public, and explain different things, that they're voting on and what they're doing on different days. It's important. We could, instead of people having to wing up and ask them what they're doing. I mean, in many cases they get ignored, but long story short, that's what I think. But I suppose, should politicians have social media? As I said, a lot of older type of politicians wouldn't have all social medias, but I do think it's important that the people can connect with the politicians, can talk to the politicians, because again, that's what they're there for. They're not there for jolly, even though they would love to be there for jolly. They are there for jolly as we speak, but they should be put under a bit of pressure now and again to do something. But yeah, let me know what you think. Subscribe for more, and bye.